Welcome to This Week in Biochar. We cover all the hottest topics from the world of biochar.
And what a week it's been. We're seeing biochar everywhere these days. Sustainable construction, agriculture. Really feels like we're witnessing a biochar boom.
It really does.
Huh?
Today we're taking a deep dive into some of the most popular stories from biochar today. We'll be breaking down the key takeaways and exploring why they matter.
I think it's fascinating to see how this simple material is capturing so much attention across so many different sectors. So, let's jump right into our first story. This one comes straight from the UK.
Okay. Set the scene for us. What's happening across the pond?
Well, Harriet Watt University, they're launching a pretty groundbreaking research project. It focuses on using biochar in construction, and it's a pretty big deal. They've secured funding from UKI. Biochar is a major government research organization.
Wow. That definitely suggests that the UK government sees potential in biochar. But what's the main goal? Is this just about making buildings a bit more eco-friendly?
It goes much deeper than that. This project, it's led by Dr. Maureen Gould, and the aim is to actually develop a comprehensive framework for integrating biochar into the UK's building practices.
So they're not just tinkering in the lab. They're aiming for real-world impact on the entire construction industry. What does this integration actually look like?
They're taking a really multifaceted approach. The project will involve rigorously testing biochar-enhanced materials, like concrete, bricks, plaster. They're also running simulations to assess how these materials perform in different building environments. But
Hmm.
perhaps the most interesting aspect is their focus on carbon sequestration.
Ah, yes. The whole idea of buildings acting as carbon sinks, it still feels a bit futuristic to me.
It's a really powerful concept, and it speaks to biochar's ability to lock away carbon. Imagine a future where buildings aren't just reducing emissions, but they're actively absorbing carbon from the atmosphere.
That really would be a game changer, especially for the construction industry. It's notorious for its environmental impact. But how exactly does biochar enhance building materials?
In a few ways. For example, biochar can improve insulation by creating tiny air pockets within materials. It can regulate moisture by absorbing and releasing water. And it can even enhance air quality by filtering out certain pollutants.
Wow. It's fascinating how something as simple as biochar can have such a diverse range of benefits. It seems like we're only just beginning to scratch the surface of its potential.
Absolutely. And this Harriet Watt project really highlights that potential by going beyond lab research and working directly with industry stakeholders.
That's a really important point. It's one thing to prove something works in a controlled environment. It's another thing to actually implement it on a larger scale. What kind of challenges do they anticipate?
I mean, there are always hurdles when it comes to adopting new technologies, especially in a sector as established as construction. Cost effectiveness, scalability, ensuring the long-term performance of these biochar enhanced materials. These will all be key considerations.
Sounds like they've got a lot on their plate. But if this project is successful, it could have far-reaching implications.
Imagine the impact if the UK became a leader in biochar-based construction. It could inspire other countries to follow suit, driving innovation and creating a more sustainable built environment globally.
That's a really compelling vision for the future of construction. Let's shift gears now. Travel across the Atlantic, explore another exciting biochar story. This one takes us to eastern Washington state, where an ag tech company is making waves.
Yeah. Qualterra, it's a company to watch. They just secured a substantial investment, $4.5 million, to expand their biochar production and launch carbon credit sales.
That's a serious vote of confidence from investors. What exactly is Qualterra doing that's caught their attention?
They're turning agricultural and forestry waste into valuable biochar, things like wheat straw and orchard residue.
So instead of these waste materials just decomposing
Mhm.
and potentially releasing harmful greenhouse gases, they're being transformed into a resource that can actually benefit the environment.
Precisely. And the benefits extend beyond just waste reduction. By incorporating biochar into the soil, Qualterra is helping farmers enhance soil health, reduce the need for irrigation, and boost crop yields.
It's remarkable how biochar can address multiple challenges simultaneously, creating a more sustainable and resilient agricultural system. But how does Qualterra plan to scale up its operations with this new investment?
They're building a state-of-the-art greenhouse campus. This expansion will allow them to increase plant production tenfold and seamlessly integrate biochar-enriched soil into their plant propagation operations.
Wow, sounds like they're really going all in on biochar.
Uh,
Isn't Qualterra doing more than just producing biochar? Their website mentions other services as well.
You're right, they're taking a comprehensive approach to sustainable agriculture. They also offer molecular plant testing that helps farmers detect diseases early on. And they sell disease-resistant nursery plants, grown in, you guessed it, biochar-enriched soil.
So they're providing a whole suite of services that support farmers in adopting more sustainable practices. It's like a one-stop shop for those looking to incorporate biochar into their operations.
Exactly. And that multifaceted approach seems to be resonating with both farmers and investors. It's encouraging to see companies like Qualterra leading the way in sustainable agriculture.
It really is a great example of how biochar can be a catalyst for positive change, not just environmentally, but also economically. Now for our final story in this segment. We're going to dive into some cutting-edge research on biochar's potential in concrete production.
This is where things get really interesting. A recent review article published in Smart Green Materials has been making waves in the biochar community.
Why is this particular article generating so much buzz? What makes it stand out from previous research on biochar and concrete?
This article takes a deep dive into the numerous studies that have been conducted on using biochar as a sustainable cement replacement in concrete. It examines the impact of biochar on the different types of strength that are essential for concrete's performance.
Okay, let's break that down a bit. For those of us who aren't civil engineers, what are these different types of strength?
Good point. When we talk about concrete strength, we're usually referring to its compressive strength, which is its ability to withstand being squeezed or compressed. That's obviously crucial for any building material that needs to support weight.
Right, you don't want your walls crumbling under pressure.
Yeah.
But you mentioned there are other types of strength as well.
Yes. Concrete also needs tensile strength, which is its ability to resist being pulled apart or stretched, and flexural strength, which measures its ability to withstand bending without breaking.
So it sounds like concrete needs to be tough in a lot of different ways to do its job properly. What does this have to do with biochar?
What's remarkable is that researchers have found that incorporating biochar into concrete can actually enhance all of these strengths, at least to some degree.
Okay, now we're getting to the exciting part. Tell us more about these findings. What kind of strength enhancements are we talking about?
Some of the studies highlighted in the review article have shown remarkable results in certain cases. Adding just a small percentage of biochar to the concrete mix, like as little as 2%, led to a significant increase in compressive strength, sometimes even up to 40%.
Whoa, a 40% increase in strength. That's huge. But is there a catch? Can we just start dumping tons of biochar into concrete and expect miraculous results?
Of course, there are always nuances. The review article points out that while small amounts of biochar can enhance strength, larger amounts can sometimes have the opposite effect, weakening the concrete due to increased porosity and water requirements.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, the optimal balance of biochar to maximize its benefits without compromising the integrity of the concrete.
Exactly. And that's where continued research is needed. While these initial findings are exciting, scientists are still exploring the long-term performance of biochar-enhanced concrete and how to best optimize its use in various applications.
It's a fascinating area of study. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Right.
But before we get too lost in the world of concrete science, let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue our exploration of biochar, delving into even more surprising and innovative applications. Welcome back to This Week in Biochar. Before the break, we were talking about how adding biochar to concrete can actually increase its strength.
Yeah, it's fascinating, that review article. It highlights how biochar can impact all three types of strength: compressive, tensile, and flexural, all the things concrete needs.
Right, and you explained that compressive strength is about withstanding being squeezed, but I'm still a little fuzzy on tensile and flexural strength.
Okay, sure. Imagine pulling something apart, like stretching a rubber band. Tensile strength is how well a material resists that force. It keeps it from breaking.
So a material with high tensile strength, it could withstand a lot of stretching before it snaps.
Exactly. Now imagine bending a ruler. Flexural strength is how well a material can handle that bending without cracking or breaking.
Got it. So how does biochar play into all of this?
Researchers are finding that adding biochar can actually improve all three types of strength. For compressive strength, some studies have shown that even just a tiny bit of biochar, like 2%, can increase the strength by up to 40%.
But you said earlier that too much biochar can actually weaken concrete.
Right. It's a delicate balance, too much biochar, and it can increase the porosity of the concrete. It makes it more porous, like a sponge, and that can reduce its overall strength.
So you need to find that sweet spot. to get the benefits without compromising the concrete.
Yeah, exactly. That's why continued research is so important. We have exciting findings. But scientists are still figuring out the long-term performance of this enhanced concrete and how to best use it.
It's really cool that biochar could make concrete more sustainable, but also stronger and even more durable. Can we talk a bit more about Qualterra
Yeah.
and how they're using biochar in agriculture?
Of course. They're doing really innovative work. They're taking all that agricultural and forestry waste and turning it into biochar, which they then use to enrich soil and boost plant growth.
Right. We touched on that a bit earlier, but
Yeah.
can you go into a little more detail about the benefits of adding biochar to soil?
Sure. One of the biggest benefits is improved soil structure. Biochar is kind of like a sponge. It helps the soil hold on to water and air, which are both essential for plant growth.
So it's not just about adding nutrients, it's about making the soil a better place for plants to live.
Exactly. And biochar is really porous, so it provides a habitat for beneficial microorganisms like bacteria and fungi. And those guys contribute to soil fertility and nutrient cycling.
So it's good for the plants and good for the whole soil ecosystem.
Mhm.
Are there any other benefits?
Oh, yeah. Biochar can also help reduce how much you need to irrigate because it improves the soil's water retention. This is especially important in places that are prone to drought.
Right. Water is a precious resource, especially these days.
Exactly. On top of that, biochar can even reduce how much fertilizer you need to use. It does this by improving the soil's ability to hold on to nutrients.
So farmers save money and there's less environmental impact.
Right.
It's amazing how one material can have so many positive effects on agriculture.
It is. It's all about using nature to find solutions. And Qualterra is really leading the way in creating a more sustainable agricultural system.
It's really inspiring to see. Before we wrap up, I wanted to go back to the Harriet Watt project for a sec. They mentioned incorporating biochar into different building materials, not just concrete. What else are they experimenting with?
They're looking at bricks, plaster, even insulation materials.
That's cool. The insulation part is really intriguing. How does that work?
Well, biochar is a natural insulator because it's porous. Adding it to insulation creates all these tiny air pockets, and those pockets trap heat, so less heat can transfer in or out of the building.
So buildings could stay warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer.
Yep. And it can also regulate moisture, so it's like a buffer. It absorbs moisture when it's humid and releases it when the air is dry.
So on top of being energy efficient, biochar could make buildings healthier too.
That's the idea. The Harriet Watt team is trying to figure out how to best integrate biochar into construction.
It's a big goal, but the benefits are huge. As we come to the end of our deep dive today, I keep thinking about the challenges that are preventing more people from using biochar. In construction and agriculture, what are those challenges?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is cost. Biochar itself isn't that expensive to produce, but if we want to produce enough to meet demand, we need more investment. And there's also the challenge of standardization. Right now, there's no universal standard for biochar quality. That makes it harder to sell because consumers might be unsure about what they're getting.
So we need to figure out how to produce biochar consistently.
Exactly. And on top of all that, a lot of people, even people who could benefit from it, they don't even know about biochar.
So education is really important.
Yeah. We need to tell more people about biochar, not just farmers and builders, but policymakers, investors, everyone.
It sounds like it's going to take a lot of people working together.
It will. We need researchers, entrepreneurs, policymakers, communities, all working together to figure this out.
And it's not just about big initiatives. Individuals can make a difference too, like by supporting companies that use biochar
Exactly.
or advocating for it,
Yeah.
or even just using it in their own gardens.
Everyone can play a part.
It's all about working together to create a more sustainable future.
Absolutely.
Feels like we've covered so much today. Biochar in construction, biochar in agriculture. It's amazing.
It really is. It's such a versatile material.
As we wrap up, I wanted to kind of zoom out for a second
Yeah.
and think about the bigger picture. What are the implications if more people start using biochar?
Well, one of the biggest things is climate change. Biochar can sequester carbon. It locks it away in the soil for centuries. That could be huge for reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Right. We hear about carbon sequestration all the time. But it seems like biochar could be a real solution.
And it's not just climate change. Biochar can help create a circular economy. It turns waste into something useful.
That's the dream, turning waste into a resource. It's a win-win.
Exactly.
But as with anything new, there are going to be challenges.
Oh, definitely. One of the biggest is figuring out how to produce enough biochar. We need more investment to scale up production.
Yeah, makes sense. Supply and demand.
And then there's standardization. There's no universal standard for biochar quality right now, so it's hard for consumers to know what they're getting.
So we need to figure out how to produce biochar consistently.
Yeah, so everyone knows what they're buying.
What else?
Awareness. A lot of people just don't know about biochar.
So we need to spread the word.
Absolutely.
Tell everyone about how great it is.
Exactly.
That sounds like we need a lot of people to get involved.
We do. We need researchers, entrepreneurs, policymakers, everyone working together.
What can individuals do?
Support companies that use biochar. Talk about biochar with friends and family. You can even try using biochar in your own garden.
Everyone can play a part.
Exactly.
That's a great message to end on. Thank you for joining us on This Week in Biochar. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with biochar.
See you next time.